I do not usually talk about things like this, and I am choosing my words carefully because once I say them out loud, they are real in a different way. People see me play and they assume basketball has always been simple for me. They assume it has always been joy, confidence, and big moments. I understand why they think that. Most of what you see from me is competitive fire and composure. You see the shots, the celebrations, the intensity. You do not see the weight that comes with it. There is this version of me that lives in highlights, and that version never doubts anything. She never gets overwhelmed. She never questions whether it is worth it. And I know that image matters to a lot of people. I know young players watch and look for something steady. I feel responsible for that more than I probably should. Being in the spotlight means you carry expectations that go beyond the game itself. It is not just about scoring or passing or winning. It is about representing something bigger. It is about answering questions the right way. It is about reacting the right way. It is about not showing too much frustration even when you feel it. That kind of pressure does not disappear when the buzzer sounds. People assume that if you love something and you are good at it, there is no reason you would ever consider walking away. They think talent protects you from burnout. It does not. Talent just puts you in more situations where the stakes are higher, and when the stakes are higher, the pressure gets heavier. I've always taken pride in being tough mentally. I show up, I compete, I move on to the next play. That is what people expect from me, but there have been nights where I sat alone after a game and felt drained in a way that was hard to explain. Not physically tired, emotionally tired of feeling like every performance carried more meaning than it should. When you are constantly in conversations about records, comparisons, and legacy, it can start to feel like you are playing for everything except yourself. Every game becomes part of a bigger narrative. Every mistake becomes proof of something. Every success becomes another expectation to match or exceed. It stops feeling like a game sometimes and starts feeling like an obligation. I know a lot of people will hear that and think I am ungrateful. I am not. I am grateful every day for the opportunities I have, but gratitude does not erase pressure. You can appreciate something and still struggle under its weight, and those two things can exist at the same time. There was a stretch where I felt like I was carrying not just my own goals, but everyone else's hopes. Fans, media, teammates, coaches, people wanted me to be steady, to be fearless, to be the answer when things got tight. I embraced that role. I still do, but embracing something does not mean it never overwhelms you. The spotlight changes how you process failure. If you have a bad night in a normal situation, you go back to work and fix it. When you have a bad night with millions watching and talking, it follows you home. It lives in your phone. It lives in conversations you overhear. It becomes something bigger than one game. There were moments where I felt like I could not step away, even for a second, because stepping away would be seen as weakness. That thought sat with me more than I expected. I did not want to be seen as someone who could not handle it. I did not want to let anyone down. That fear of disappointing people can become louder than your own voice if you are not careful. From the outside, it probably looked like I was thriving through all of it. I was playing well. I was competing. I was doing what people expected me to do. But internally, there were questions I was not ready to say out loud. Questions about balance, questions about whether I was still playing because I loved it or because I felt responsible for it. When you grow up around basketball, it becomes part of your identity. People introduce you with it. They describe you with it. They connect you to it in every conversation. So when doubt creeps in, it does not just challenge your sport, it challenges who you think you are. There was a point where the pressure and the noise and the expectations all blended together in a way that made me pause in a way I never had before. It was not dramatic, it was quiet. It was a real thought that surprised me because I had never let it go that far in my head before, and it scared me a little that I even allowed myself to think it. It scared me a little that I even allowed myself to think it, because once that thought shows up, you cannot pretend. It never did. You cannot just shake it off like a missed shot. It lingers, It follows you into practice, into the locker room, into film sessions, and you start looking at everything through a slightly different lens. The team environment did not suddenly turn negative. Nobody was yelling at me. Nobody was pushing me out. That is not what this was. It was more subtle than that. It was the weight of feeling responsible for the emotional energy of the group while also trying to manage my own. When you are seen as a leader, people look to you to set the tone even when you are struggling internally. There were days when I walked into the locker room and felt like I had to put on the same steady face no matter what was going on inside. If I looked tired, someone would ask what was wrong. If I seemed quiet, it would shift the mood. I did not want my internal doubts to affect anyone else, so I kept them contained. At the same time, competition inside a team is real. Everyone wants minutes. Everyone wants the ball. Everyone wants to feel valued. That is normal. But when you are the one with the spotlight, it can create tension that nobody talks about directly. I could feel when frustration in a game was not just about the scoreboard. I could feel when expectations were layered on top of normal mistakes. I never felt betrayed by my teammates. I want to be clear about that. This was not about someone doing something wrong to me. It was about the pressure of being central to everything. When something went well, it was because of me. When something went wrong, it was also because of me, even when that was not accurate. That is how it felt. There were conversations in the locker room about roles and adjustments, normal basketball conversations, but I started noticing how often I felt like I had to defend my own effort or explain my mindset. Not in a hostile way, in a way that made me realize I was constantly justifying my intensity. I push hard, I demand a lot, I talk a lot on the court. That is how I play. But when you are mentally tired, even normal pushback can feel heavier. There were moments when I wondered if it would be easier to just step away from all of it, not because I hated basketball, but because I was exhausted by the constant responsibility. The silence around my own struggle made it worse. I did not want to tell my teammates I was doubting things because I did not want to shake their confidence, and I did not want to tell coaches because I did not want to be seen as fragile. So I carried it quietly. I remember sitting in the locker room after a tough stretch of games. Nothing dramatic had happened. We were competing, we were fighting, but I felt disconnected from myself in a way I had never felt before. I felt like I was performing leadership instead of living it naturally. That is when the thought came back stronger. What if I just stop? What if I step away and let the noise settle? What if I choose a life that does not revolve around constant evaluation? I did not say it out loud. I barely let myself finish the thought, but it was there. And the scariest part was not the idea of quitting. It was the relief that came with imagining it. The relief of not having to carry everything. The relief of not being analyzed every night. That feeling made me question everything because basketball had always been the place I ran toward, not away from. I kept showing up. I kept playing. Nobody would have known what was happening inside, but the internal tension was real. I was balancing love for the game with frustration at what it had become in my head. I was balancing commitment to my team with a private desire for quiet. There were moments in practice where I felt sharp and locked in, and moments where I felt detached. I hated that feeling. I am used to being all in. I am used to caring deeply. Feeling even a little disconnected scared me more than any loss ever could. The pressure was not coming from one person. It was coming from the combination of expectations, leadership, competition, and my own standards. I have always been hard on myself. When you add to internal pressure, it can create something that feels overwhelming, even if nothing dramatic has happened. I did not almost quit because of one game. I almost quit because I felt like I was losing the version of myself that played freely, and I felt like I was playing not to disappoint instead of playing to create. And that shift is subtle, but it changes everything. It changes everything. And I had to sit with that long enough to understand what was actually happening. I realized I was not tired of basketball. I was tired of carrying it in a way that felt heavier than it needed to be. I had let the expectations become louder than my own reasons for playing. The moment I almost quit was not loud. It was not a breakdown. It was a quiet night where I asked myself if I still felt like me when I stepped on the court.